Welcome to the Primitive Camping and Bushcraft Podcast. I'm your host, Chris Spear. So here, we're going to talk about gear, grit, and the kind of stories you only get around a fire. It's all about learning, adapting, and keeping your faith strong. So whether you're a seasoned outdoorsman or just looking to unplug and reconnect, you're in the right place. So pull up a chair by the fire and let's get into it. All right, guys, welcome back to the Primitive Camping and Bushcraft Podcast. And today we're going to have a good one. We're going to talk about smoking some meat over an open fire. We're going to talk about smoking meat and the great outdoors. I love smoked meat. There is, beyond a shadow of a doubt, it is one of my absolute favoriteest things to do whenever I'm camping, whenever I'm barbecuing, when I'm hanging out with friends, stuff like that. Full disclosure, we are not at the camp What the Heck today. I was unable to make it out there this week due to work conflicts and work schedules. I've had to cover a couple of shifts up there at the restaurant with my beautiful bride. Hey, real quick, if you would, go over to Amazon, pick up a copy of the Primitive Camping and Bushcraft book. It is $18, I think, right now on Amazon. If you don't mind, go over there. If you have purchased the book, please leave a good review or just leave a review. Let me know what you think. If you don't mind, head on over. Leave a review on that at Amazon or wherever you purchased your book, and I would greatly, greatly appreciate that. But right now we're talking about smoking fish, all right? So fish is always one of those things that I always have when I go into the woods. I'm always camping on a river or a lake or, I'm always have access to some kind of water, and I'm always fishing. And I typically put myself in positions to where I am going to be fishing whenever I head out into the great outdoors. So whenever you're out in the woods and you're spending your days around camp, smoking meat isn't just about the flavor, it's about preservation. So if you're in a long-term situation out into the great outdoors, you're out there to preserve the meat and keep it from decaying, from being rotting and bacteria growth on it, But, also smoking actually adds a ton of flavor and is a preservation or preservative, and it stretches what you caught to last longer. And so, I've seen guys, if you watch that Long show, they had one guy, he was catching all his meat, smoking it, and he had like 30 some odd fillets, but he still went home from malnourishment because he didn't eat his food. So fish is one of my favorite things to smoke out in the field. It doesn't take long. It absorbs the full flavor. It absorbs it like a sponge, and it just tastes better when you've cleaned it yourself. You hung it out there, and there's a million different ways to do it. People will get them a couple of branches and they'll fillet or butterfly that whatever kind of fish, and they'll hold it over a fire and cook it from the inside out or outside in or whatever. I've seen people, they'll put a stick through it and they'll put a couple other sticks to hold it open on the front and the sides, and just, cook it in one big, kind of like what a basket does, where you put the fish in the basket and you just flip it over and over. And I've seen people do it that way. I've seen people just throw it on a rock. I've seen people wrap it in aluminum foil, put it out there, pots and pans. I've seen people put it into pots and pans. Ain't nothing wrong. There's no wrong way to do it. Whatever way that you want to do it, that's the right way to do it. And as people can understand that there's no wrong way to do all this camping stuff or hiking stuff or going out into the woods, there's no wrong way to do it. And there's a big stigma right now with bushcraft and survivalists all over the interwebs that, if you don't do it this way, you're doing it wrong. And that's incorrect. There's no wrong way to do certain things, but this ain't about that. We're not going to be sitting there beating that down, and we're going to be talking about smoking some meat. So first up, we're going to be talking about some wood. Wood makes the meal. Now, when you are out in the great outdoors, and you're looking for something to smoke a meat with, smoke a fish, and we're using fish as the example, but you could do any kind of meat, anything that you have dispatched. You can cut it thin enough, and you can smoke it. You can make it into jerkies, stuff like that. But smoking it's going to preserve it and cook it. If it's a poultry thing, in my book I put all the temperatures, the cooking temperatures and stuff like that. But if it's got 4 legs, it's going to be safer to smoke unless it's a high heat type thing. Wings is going to be a little bit, any kind of poultry has got to be cooked to a higher temperature. Fish has got to be cooked to like 145. If it walks on the ground with 4 legs, it's got to be cooked up to 155. And that's well done now. And then 165, 170 for any kind of birds. But when you're smoking stuff, here's the thing. Not all wood is good. Not all wood is good wood. How much wood could a woodchuck chuck? Yeah, never mind. If you're smoking meat, you want a nut-bearing hardwood or a nut-bearing tree, hickory, oak, pecan. These are tried and true. They burn hot, they burn clean, and they hold a very steady coal. They actually give off a pretty good smoke. But you want to steer clear of any kind of resinous woods. And resinous means like conifers. Always anything that has a pitch or a sap like pine or fir or cedar. Now, that's for full smoke. They'll leave your meat tasting like chemicals. They'll leave it tasting like turpentine and nasty, and it will have some carcinogens in it. And there will be people out there that argue smoking your meat causes cancer anyway. But that's not just nasty. That's just it's unhealthy. You don't use pine, any kind of pine, to smoke your meat. Now, folks ask me about cedar planks. So here we go. They're great for grilling. They add flavor. But for smoking, I don't trust it. No, it's still a resinous. Some people will say, but me personally, this is Chris, I'll keep testing it out and I'll see. But here is one that most people don't think of, and here's one that most people don't use. And Magnolia. Magnolia is a nut-bearing tree. It does have like little nuts on there in the springtime. It puts off that little flower, the big, beautiful flower. I know Magnolia is the state tree for several states, but especially in the South, I believe it is for Mississippi, Louisiana. I can't remember if it's, Mississippi, Alabama. I can't remember if it is Louisiana or not. But Magnolia is amazing. It has a wonderful, full-bodied flavor when you're smoking with it. And my brother and I, we were on a trip. We were out in the great outdoors in one of the national forests, and all there was either pine or magnolia. And so we decided, well, we're going to cook our fish. We caught a bunch of fish. We caught a pike, and this pike was about, golly, Aaron, if you listen, let me know how big it was. I think it was close to 4 pounds. It was a decent sized fish. And we went ahead, and it was so big that we scaled it, we gutted it, and we hung it up to smoke, and we cut little lines in it and scored it. That way the heat can get into the fish more. And it turned out to be one of the most amazing meals. But there's another one that's even better, and we'll get into those in a little while. But magnolia wood to us was everywhere. I mean, it was everywhere. They had a magnolia tree, and I never seen a magnolia tree this big in my life. But this tree was as big around as a Volkswagen Beetle. I mean, it was huge, and it was ginormous. And this thing is, it had limbs and branches falling off left and right. Every time a storm comes, the branch will die, it'll fall off, and we use that thing and smoke that thing. And I'm telling you right now, man, it made our fish phenomenal. Now, there are certain things when you get out, and there are certain woods that don't taste good with certain meats. And there are certain, like hickory doesn't taste very, very good with beef. Hickory is not the best choice to smoke beef with. Beef is better with mesquite or pecan, apple, stuff like that. But hickory is real pungent, real strong, and don't get me wrong, son, I love some hickory, and I will smoke anything with some hickory. But I will choose a mesquite or something else a little bit less bold with the beef or any kind, beef. Pork is great with all of them. I haven't found one that don't taste good with pork. The only thing that I found that don't go good with pork is lemon pepper. For some reason, lemon pepper and pork don't agree with me, and I can't stand it, and I don't want to get too far off on a tangent, but Magnolia was everywhere, and it was everywhere down here in South Mississippi, but it was everywhere out there in this national forest we was at. And we was camping on the river, and we had caught some fish, and we caught some bass, some largemouth bass. We caught some pike, and we caught a couple real nice sac-a-lait or white perch or crappie, whichever ones you want to call them, And then we got these things out there, and we collected our magnolia wood. Magnolia burns smooth, it smells clean, and when you use it to smoke fish, it's just like, oh Lord Jesus in heaven, thank you so much for this day. That's just what it's like. So it's not too strong. It's just enough to make you look up after the first bite and go, yep, that's camp cooking right there. So, I probably should start keeping a few chunks of magnolia on my gear just in case, but no, there's other things out there. I mean, anything hardwood smoke to me is, oak. Oak does a pretty good, decent job with smoking as well. But anyway, my setup, it's simple and field tested, and I've used this. I didn't bring any kind of fancy rigs. All we did was we made a tripod, and this tripod worked perfect. I built the tripod from some green saplings. I lashed them together at the top, and then we took floral wire. If you went to Hobby Lobby or any kind of your little hobby stores, or they even got it at Harbor Freight in little rolls. It's called mechanics wire. It's just about the same thing. Floral wire is green, and it's probably got a plastic coating on it, but it's never melted off for us. So, I mean, we've used this thing millions of times, or tons of times in woods. But floral wire, we would hang our fish by the tail with this wire and let it dangle over the fire, to the outside edges of the fire, and just let the smoke all day. Now, if you got a copy of my book, you will see the actual setup that we use to smoke these fish. The fish I'm talking about on this camping trip made it into the book, and it has photographs of it. I had a sheet that I brought because during the summertime, I do not sleep in a sleeping bag or anything. I slept in a sheet, and I use that sheet to wrap around the tripod to make the smoker. And it didn't catch on fire. And, we kept the fire small, but we kept the smoke large. And that's the trick to doing a real good smoking. Now, floral wire is extremely lightweight. It's strong, and it's about, 15 or so uses in the wild. You can use it to repair gear, which I have. I repaired a zipper that was starting to unravel. I repaired a zipper with the wire. You can use it for trapping. You can use it for lashing. You can keep a roll in your kit. You can keep a roll in your little bags, it's lightweight and it's awesome. And these things are amazing, and they do a very good job at whatever it is that you need to do. So once your tripod's up, I built a small fire underneath it, and I started adding my wood, and we brought it to temperature. We brought the flames, and then I let it cook down to some coals. And then we started adding our Magnolia to it. Now, if you're using pine or a resinous wood, it's okay. Start your fire with that. Don't hang your food over it until it comes down to coals. Then you can use your pine and cook over your pine. Any open fire cooking, you can do that because once the resinous stuff is burnt off, you can still cook over the coals. All right. So just to make that clear. So we had the coals going, and we just threw a little bit of Magnolia in there at a time. And, we didn't have no large flames, just smoke. Smoke cooks low and preserves for very long. So the thing about smoking is that you don't have to overthink it. You keep tending to that fire and keep throwing some sticks to it and letting the smoke, it'll take care of it. You don't have to worry about it. Steady as you go. Steady smoke, no flames. Just go ahead and keep on smoking, and smoke cooks low and preserves for a long time. And like I said, you don't have to overthink it. You give it a couple hours of good heat and good smoke, and you got fish that you will go home and tell everybody about, and you will always come back and try the same thing over and over and over again. We've done it. We have gone to the woods. We have gone camping, and many a trips have we come back and tried to replicate that process. And we have replicated it. We have done it. It has created something in us enough for me to talk about it in the book, Primitive Camping and Bushcraft. So smoking meat teaches you something. It teaches you patience. You can't rush the process. You're not grilling. You're not pan searing. You're not cooking over an open flame. You're cooking at a relatively low heat and a lot of smoke. Now, a fish can sit there on the edge of the fire, and smoke all day long. And by the time you get done to it, by the time you get ready, the meat will be falling off of the bone. So when it comes to smoking, you can't crank up the heat and expect the flavor to soak in. It's not going to happen. You got to slow down, and you got to let that fire do its work. You got to throw them logs on there. You got to let that smoke come out. That same thing goes for how God works on us. Now, I want you to picture this for a second. You've got meat hanging over your fire, and smoke slowly rising up, and it's taking its dear sweet time. But that smoke is changing that meat, right? It preserves it. It's adding depth to it. It's making it useful. It's changing the flavor. It is really making something out of it that wasn't there before. Romans chapter 12, verse 1 says this: "Therefore, I urge you, brothers and sisters, in view of God's mercy, to offer your bodies as a living sacrifice, holy and pleasing to God. This is your true and proper worship." Now think about that. Just like we lay fish over the fire to make it last, we're called to lay our lives before the Lord as a living sacrifice. Not just once on Sunday, but we're asked to do it every day. We're called to do it every day. Not with big talk, but with real action, real surrender. And just like that meat changes under the smoke, God changes us when we stay near his flame, when we stay near his fire. It ain't always fast, but I guarantee you it's always worth it. Smoke gets into the fibers of the fish. In God's word, it's going to soak into your bones. If you keep moving, never sitting still long enough, you'll never get that full flavor, that real preservation. But if you stay close, If you let him work slow, I promise you, he will transform you. You don't come out of the smoke the same. It's not going to happen. So we used hardwoods and we used Magnolia. We didn't really touch on all the other stuff there. You know, we talked about avoiding pine and cedars, and, you know, cedars at barbecuing has the planks. It adds a flavor to your fish or your meats or whatever it is you're grilling. We used the tripod, and I told you about the floral wire and all that. I outlined in the book how to do all that. You know, we're going to keep that fire slow and steady. And how, you know, we talked about how smoke teaches patience and depth, just like walking with the Lord. So the next time you're out here in the woods and you got your fire going and you got fish on the line, try smoking it. Slow it down. Watch the smoke rise. And remember, this is more than cooking. This is a life lesson. Because I promise you, every time you come back out to the woods, you're going to try this again. Now, let's back up just a touch. You know, we talked about this with the temperatures and everything, but you can smoke different meats. You can smoke anything. Anything can be smoked, and anything can be changed to flavor. If you don't have a lot of salt and pepper with you, you don't have any seasonings with you, which is silly because there's seasonings all around you. You use different things for different seasonings and everything, but if you don't have the smoke. There's something about the smoke, isn't there? Think about it. Smoke gets rid of the mosquitoes. Smoke gets rid of bacteria. Smoke changes the flavor. Smoke is amazing stuff, and it's amazing how it is used to do things. Fire transforms. Smoke is a transformation of the fire. It is what's left from the chemical process, you know, of fire combustion, and the smoke is left over from the combustion, and it is what is transforming your food. You got the heat from the fire that is warming it up and cooking it, bringing it to a temperature that's safe for you to consume. But at the same time, you have the smoke, which is changing the flavor of it, which is going to make it to where it tastes great. Now, there was another thing I wanted to tell you guys about on this trip. We got into some small green catfish. These things, I don't know, they're not even 12 inches long. And every time you catch one, they're always the same size. Little stubby little things, little green, yellow, green. We always call them mud cats. And these things they're plentiful, and we were catching them like crazy. So we skinned them out, and it was our actual first time eating this particular species of catfish. And we went over there. We had four or five of them, and we hung them up with a floral wire right next to that fire with some Magnolia. And ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you, that was worth the trip right there. Just the smoked fish sitting by the little lake or the river, and sitting there just telling stories. And me and my brother, you know, and we told stories all our lives to each other, you know. But it's crazy how food is always something that brings people together. And I feel like everything's interconnected. If you look at it all through history, if you look at it through the Bible times, all that, everything's always interconnected. So, but anyway, those little green catfish were amazing. And I've always caught them on little jigs when I'm out jigging. I'll be trying to catch some white perch, some sac-a-lait, some crappie. It depends on where you at, or, you know, over in Georgia, it's crappie. Over here, it's white perch. Over in Louisiana, it's sac-a-lait. And them things, man, people go nuts trying to find them fish. and they're great eating, and they are amazing smoked, amazing fried. They're amazing. They're amazing. No matter what, I don't care how you gonna cook them things. Some things are amazing. Sacre. But yeah, that's pretty good stuff. But we were catching these little green catfish, and I usually catch them on a jig. And man, let me tell you, they fight pretty hard. And then whenever you get them up, they're just little, they're not even, like I said, they're not even 12 inches long. The skin comes off pretty quick. You just go ahead and get rid of the entrails and gut them little puppies, and then dehead them. And then you got bait for the next one. And then you go ahead and throw them up with some floral wire and let them cook. And let me tell you, I cannot explain to you how good those fish are. But anyway, that is my take on smoking in the woods. You hang something over the fire, and if you got to, you can make yourself a rack with small sticks, and you can weave that thing together to make a grill, and you can lay you some jerky meat out on there, or lay you any kind of meat up there and smoke them things or preserve it. You can do the venison, you can do raccoon, you can do whatever you want to do, and you can go ahead and smoke that, cook it down, and you'll be good to go. It preserves it. It keeps it gets rid of the bacteria on there, and the smoke drives out the moisture content from it, and moisture and bacteria is what causes everything to start to decompose, and the smoke is going to get rid of that. So the low heat is going to rid the moisture, and the smoke is going to rid the bacteria, and then it's going to actually preserve it for a little bit longer. It don't have like a 2-month or 3-month shelf life, but you can extend it to about a week or two. It depends on what it is. So make sure you do your research on that and find out exactly how long it is that you got on whatever particular target species that you're going to have when you smoke in the wild. But I'm telling you, experiment around with different flavors, with different woods, stuff like that. And let me know in the comments. Let me know what you think. Head on over to the Primitive Camping and Bushcraft podcast Facebook page, and let me know. There's a ongoing discussion in there about topics. I have a couple of topics. Today we're talking about smoking fish, and I think the next one is going to be about a kit, carrying your kit in your car. And I got a new bag down here that was sent to me to test out, and we're going to dig into it and talk about it and stuff like that in the next episode. That'll be the 4th of July weekend, won't it? All right. So, well, anyway, thanks for sitting around the fire with me today. And hopefully this episode helped you think. It encouraged you a little bit in your walk, and, share it with somebody. And I really do hope you enjoyed it. And don't forget to pick up your copy of Primitive Camping and Bushcraft on Amazon or wherever you buy books. And go ahead and sign up for the Primitive Camping and Bushcraft Facebook page. And until we'll see you on the next one, in all your ways, acknowledge Him. God bless you. Thanks for sitting around the fire with me today. If this episode gave you something to think about, if it helped you feel a little bit more prepared, or it even stirred your faith a tiny bit, go ahead and share it with someone else who might need it as well. We don't go camping to run away from life. We come out here to slow down and recharge. So grab another log, throw it on the fire, and remember this: in all your ways, acknowledge Him, and He will direct your path. I'll see you next time. God bless you.